everyone, I'm Dylan from Unknown Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about the album that made me want to start this music review channel, Church by Billy Woods. Billy Woods is like one of my favorite rappers of all time. I think he's one of the most overlooked, slept on, underrated rappers in the game right now, and he's like absolutely killing it in the underground scene. His project with Armand Hammer, Haram, which I've got right here, I've got the vinyl right here, that was absolutely incredible. His project with More Mother Brass, I got the shirt on right here, that one was really good. He had a solo project this year named Ethiops that he did with, I think it was Preservation did the production on that. That was amazing. So he's been just pumping out like project after project. So I was floored when he did the surprise drop for Church just a couple days ago. Before I get into the album specifically, when he dropped the album, the first thing that came to my mind was Griselda. And I realized Billy Woods and Armand Hammer in general, but Billy Woods is kind of like Griselda. And like, let me break that down a little bit, because like there might be some people who are like they're nothing alike. Not necessarily in terms of what they rap about, right? But they're so good in their respective genres, but they're also so prolific that it's almost kind of like hard to even keep up with the amount of stuff that they put out. But at least for me, all the rappers from that trio, and with Billy Woods, every time that they drop, even though they drop constantly, I know that there's a floor, there's like a base level of quality that I know it's gonna be good. And each album, there's something that really jumps out, but it's like I can jump into any Billy Woods album, any Griselda album, right? And even though there's like so much that it's kind of even hard to keep up with, it's like they're so good at what they do that even when they're on autopilot, it's like it doesn't matter. And I think like that could be a complaint for some, and I totally get it. But like I said, to me it doesn't even really matter, because just the quality is consistent. That's the biggest thing that I think of when I think of both artists. I just think of consistency, right? So I kind of had that in my mind before I even listened to it. I was like, I feel like how I feel before I listen to a release from Benny the Butcher or Conway or Westside Gunn. I just know it's gonna be good and I know I'm gonna enjoy it. It's just like, will I love it in a way that I don't love the other projects that they've done? Will it stand out? Will it be unique? And I gotta say, like, this one, it definitely stood out. Like I said, it has its moments where it kind of, it's typical Billy Woods, which is incredible and like so far above a lot of rap today. But then there's these moments where in the track listing, it's a specific run of songs from Cossack Wedding to Polo Rios, where it's just like, he reminds you how good of a rapper he is and how good of an artist he is. And right now I feel like the conversation of like who's like king of the underground rap scene is like, who's king other than Billy Woods? Rock Marciano, he's like right there, but I mean like Billy Woods and Armand Hammer, but like Billy Woods specifically, like, I mean, he is just absolutely killing it. And he shows that on this album. So I'm just gonna jump into, I'm gonna jump around a little bit, because like the thing about Billy Woods projects is there's so much going on that it's kind of overwhelming. When I listen to it, I realize I'm like, there are so many things in this that I'm not gonna catch. In that he knows I'm most likely not gonna catch. He knows that 90% of the listeners who hear this reference or whatever, they're not gonna know what on earth he's talking about. But like, it doesn't matter because he does it so well, and he's writing for himself. He has this line, I believe it's in Schism, yeah, where he says, I'm paraphrasing, he says, my poems need a home. They're gonna be here long after everyone else is gone. And to me, I feel like that's the frame of reference that he's writing this whole album in, and it really made me understand him as an artist better. But I think he's refined that self-expression so much to where, as listeners, we're just along for the ride, and it's like absolutely incredible. So I'm just gonna go into my favorite tracks. So I'm gonna start with Cossack Wedding. I've never heard Billy Woods on a track like this, and maybe he's been on one. Like I said, I haven't listened to his full discography, so Let me know in the comments if he's been on something similar. I'm sure he has at some point, but I haven't heard it. He's on on a trap beat. He's not on a soul beat. He's not on this weird he's like trap hi-hats, trap snare. Messiah Music puts this like really slow kind of knocking trap beat together, right? But underneath it is this kind of marching tom beat underneath this trap beat that's going on at the same time, and it makes this really weird hypnotic kind of effect where it's like, it's kind of hard to put your finger on, but it's really intoxicating. And then he slides these like really dour kind of sour organ tones. They might be synth. It's hard to place exactly what they are, but it sounds like something off of Earl Sweatshirt's new album Sick, which doesn't surprise me because Earl and Billy Woods have collaborated on multiple occasions, and it sounded something that could have came right off of Sick. I loved it, but I was just like, I've never heard Billy on something like this before, and I've never heard a trap beat like this before. So that was just like, the production on that was so hypnotic that it was hard for me to even pay attention to what he was saying. Like, he was flowing really well. It was great. I loved it, but like, to me, the production like totally stole the show. It was such a great song. And then right from that, you go right over into Schism, and he starts it off with the line that I mentioned before, talking about poems needing a home, his poems needing a home, and how they're going to be here, you know, when we're all gone. So I loved that. That was great. But what, again, like the production, his flow over this soul beat that is like, it's got pianos and flutes, and again, like another slower beat. There's a lot of slow beats on this album, but with Billy Woods and the way that he raps, because he raps so rapid fire sometimes, he just squeezes so many words, and he doesn't even really, at times, he doesn't even necessarily like have a rap flow. It's more spoken word, and he's just going. And that's one of his like biggest skills, is the ability to jump on any beat and just go, and somehow he makes it work. So he's doing it on Schism, he's doing his thing, it sounds great, and then out of nowhere there's this crazy beat switch that flips one of the best tracks off of his last album, Ethiop's No Hard Feelings, and it just totally changes the texture of the song, because you go from this soul beat, right, to this blaring horn beat, right? And you realize, like, it starts fading in, and you hear the little synth line from No Hard Feelings, and it sounds familiar, but the horns are sequenced differently than they were in the beat from that song. So it takes you a little bit to realize, like, this is the beat from No Hard Feelings. And then the guest on this song, Fat Ray, he goes absolutely crazy. Like, I was blown away. I've never heard of Fat Ray before, but his feature was so impressive. Like, I was just so like enamored by the whole thing that I didn't even it took me like 3 listens to realize that he referenced No Hard Feelings. So they literally were saying like, yeah, we flipped No Hard Feelings. But that track was just absolutely incredible and completely different from Cossack Wedding, yet they fit together so well. But again, 2 tracks that like, I've heard, you know, like Billy's on soul beats all the time, but it was the way that there was like that beat switch, and then just the creativity to flip No Hard Feelings in such an interesting way right after having Cossack, which was like this weird, like moody trap kind of like abstract thing going on. I just, again, like, to me, this is where the album really shined, and it put Billy in lights that I haven't heard him before, and I absolutely loved it. And then going from Schism, you go into Frankie, which has, again, like the tone of the album just like totally shifts, right? And now you have this really intense drum, bass, and piano beat. Like, the bass is really, I think it might have been a fretless bass. It was really high in the mix, but really present, really full. You could feel every note being played, even like the accents. It was just a really heavy bass. The drums were really intense. Piano was this really stark, like, very simple piano beat, but there's a lot there. Like, when you hear it, it just like, it's really intense. And the thing that I love about it the most is that No Hard Feelings, that beat and the flip of that beat, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of textures, there's a lot of different sounds, and it's kind of this big swirl, right? But this beat on Frankie is just clear, it's crisp, it just cuts right through, and it's just a great contrast. There's these like samples going on as this beat is just riding. They let this beat ride for maybe like 45 seconds to a minute. They let you really get into it. Like, I love when producers let the beat breathe, and Messiah Music definitely did it on this track. So the sample's going and this beat is going, and then these weeping horns come in, and like they start peeking in, and then they start coming in more, and it's just this simple, it's like the simple 2-note melody, and it adds such a different dimension to the beat in general. It makes it feel a lot more forlorn. Like it is just a really intense beat, and then by the time Billy comes in, it's just like it's over. He flows on it so well. His verse on that is absolutely great. And then you've got that track, totally different from Schism, totally different from Cossack Wedding. Then you go into Polo Rico. This is one of 2 songs on this album that do a fusion of genres that I haven't really heard a lot. Not done in this way. And I call it lo-fi hardcore. And because like the way that this beat is set up on Polo Rico, it's just lo-fi. I think there's like maybe like organs or something, but there's this really satisfying like descending chord progression. But you know, I don't know exactly what chords he was using there. I think there had to be like a major in there somewhere, like a major chord, some mix of major and minor, because even though it's descending and it's definitely like a sadder type beat, there's like a bittersweet quality to it, and it's like it really calms you down after the chaos of the Frankie beat. There's just this tonal switch, and with this beat it's just these very soft, somber organs, and then this knocking hardcore beat. The snares are really up front, and it's this really interesting mix of like what you would typically hear like in a boom bap hip-hop song and something lo-fi, you would like a really good lo-fi track that you would hear on YouTube or something. And the mesh, like those 2 together, just makes such an interesting sound palette that I just like, I've heard it before, but just not done in this specific way, like not with that Billy Woods abstract touch on it. By the time Billy Woods comes in, I'm already like, the beat is already like taking me, and by this point, this is where I fell in love with the album. The writing on here is absolutely beautiful. His verse is just haunting. He's talking about the aftermath of this revolution. He says, wake up thinking about the ones they left in the forest. There's no church in the wild. My uncle told me they can't bury that many bodies. They burned them in piles. It was dark. I could see his teeth. It wasn't a smile. And like just that imagery of, especially the last line, it was dark. I could see his teeth. It wasn't a smile. Like that's just, Billy has just this really, the way he paints pictures, it's so vivid. He jumps around, but like you can feel it. Like you're there, and it's because of like imagery like that. It's just absolutely beautiful. So this track is just, it's really a mood. It's really a vibe, and it almost, I feel wrong calling art that is this detailed and well put together like a vibe, but the mood is so strong, and I think that's to the credit of this album, because you can take so many different things out of it. You can pay attention to the lyrics, how detailed they are, and all the different historical references, and you can take it from that lens, or you could also take it from just the emotional lens, like different lines like the one that I just mentioned, or just strictly on the production front. It's just incredible. So to me, calling it a vibe, like, it feels weird, but I mean, it's true, and I think that's true for all Armand Hammer projects, all Billy Wood projects. The vibe is like really strong, and this Church is no different. This album's no different. Those were kind of the songs that jumped out to me the most, but let me go through a few others. Yes, this one, oh my goodness. Okay, so the last one, Magdalene with Elucid on it. Like, that, it's gotta be the most hype beat I've ever heard Billy Woods and Elucid on. It's another trap beat with this gospel in the back. It sounds like a Kanye beat. There's these choirs in the back over this trap beat with faster hi-hats this time. Like it's a trap song. And then there's this amazing soul guitar riff in the back. It's just going crazy. And I love Elucid's hook on this. Elucid's hook game is so underrated, and I think it's part of what makes him so intangible to the Armand Hammer duo. Like, I absolutely loved it. His verse was good. for me, I've learned with Elucid, his raps are so abstract that I've stopped trying. This is just me. Like, I've stopped trying to understand them. Like, Billy typically has like a story. Elucid is more of like stream of consciousness all over the place. These phrases, these images that aren't all necessarily connected, but like, it's a vibe. Again, it's a vibe, and I always enjoy it when he's on, and he has a great vocal presence. He and Billy contrast really well in that way. Whenever Elucid pops on a track, like for this one, he just brings this like infectious energy. And so when he's on the hook talking about like trust, like I get it, don't ask me how I get it, trust me, I get it. It's just like, I love it. It's great. But then Billy comes in and he has this another one of these like mini stories that he always tells in his songs, and just the writing on this one is incredible. It looks like it's about some sort of like affair with someone who he used to be with, but they're not together anymore, but he drives cross country to see her, and there's drugs involved and all this stuff, and it's just absolutely beautiful the way that it ends. It's so sad, but the writing on this one is absolutely incredible and a great way to finish the album. Let me think of other songs here that really stuck out to me. Oh yes, the opening track, Paraquat. Like, again, another track that don't typically hear him on. There's this like really haunting vocal sample in the back, which that's another thing about this album. The vocal samples are used so well all across the album. And this one starts off kind of with this haunting melody in the back, these synths that are swelling. It's a very detailed beat when you really sit and listen to it. The synths are swelling, this kind of slow beat going on, a lo-fi beat. There's like some rain ambience in the back at different points, and Wood's flow on this is it's great. I love it, and I feel like it's one of the times that he actually has like a rap flow, not like a spoken rap flow. And the line about Harden on the rock, like he said I loved her, but I knew it wasn't gonna work, like Harden on the rockets, eyes on the city like jihadis in the cockpit. I was just like, I can't. I burst out laughing with that. And then later in the song, he brings Harden back in. He says something like, it didn't work like Harden on the thunder. And I was just like, it just killed me, because I think Professor Sky, who he's another YouTuber who has reviewed Billy Woods, he pointed this out, how he has like high level and low level references, like high level references that are like, again, like 90% of people would not get. They're so obscure. But then he will also just talk about like basketball. And then there's a really great beat switch, another beat switch all over this album. This beat switch goes into like a really interesting soul beat. And it's a little bit more typical of what I would expect from Billy, but the chop's so good. I really enjoyed it. And then that goes into Artichoke, which at first, like, I loved this track the first time I heard it. The vocal sample is really good. It's another prominent vocal sample. And there's some, there's like a flute in the back there. But the more that I listen to the album, I still, like, don't get me wrong, I still really like it. But I don't think it's one of the stronger ones. I think it kind of meanders a little bit, which is like, that is one thing that I, like some Billy Woods songs, like you can definitely tell which ones are kind of Billy Woods on autopilot and Billy Woods kind of at a 10 or an 11. And I feel like this is one of them where the production and the rapping, to me, it wasn't as engaging. By the time I'm halfway through the song, like, I love the sample, but it's kind of worn on me. But he does have some great lines. Like, I love the way that he opens it up. He says, certain things you can only learn in a fist fight. I used a tooth to keep my kicks white. It mattered that much. In hindsight, it seemed like someone else's life. And he has another line referencing Hope. He says, Hope is an assassin. And just little one-liners like that, I just absolutely love. And he's got, a good chorus there, but it's a solid track, but it's not my favorite. To me, it's not as dynamic as the other tracks. And then that goes into Swampwater, which I'm torn on it, because it's like, there are sometimes I listen to it and I'm like, I love it. And then there's sometimes I listen to it where I'm just like, there's too much going on. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this track. I do think it's a good abstract beat, and it's like sometimes I can catch it, like sometimes I can get on the vibe that it's going with, but then other times it's too hard to grasp. But I mean, overall, like I think it might be a grower. It's just probably like one of my least favorite. But there are some times where I'm just like, you know what? I want to listen to Swampwater, and I'll turn it on and I'll enjoy it. So I just think I have to give that one a little bit more time. And then Fever Grass, I think it's pretty decent. I just think it's another one of the sleepier tracks, which is weird because there's multiple beat switches, but to me, like none are more interesting than the other. They're all kind of like at kind of like a slow meandering pace, but the beat itself is really, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but I always admire that. And the same thing with Swampwater. Like I admire just like how out there some of these beats are. I'm just like, I just have never heard this before. Not saying that it's never been done before, but it's just like you don't hear it a lot. And so I really do appreciate that. So songs like Swampwater and Fever Grass, I mean, like, they're not my favorites on the album, but I'm happy they're there and I don't skip them. But I do love the mantra that he repeats. This is in Fever Grass. He says, "Cut the power, I'll thrive in the dark with survivors, killers, and cowards because they ain't got no heart. No hours, every day is a tally mark." I love that. That is just chilling. Every day, like no hours, every day is a tally mark. Like the visuals I get from that is just being on an absolute mission. I love it. So yeah, like again, like songs like that on the album, I'm still glad they're there. They're just probably not my favorites. It's kind of what I kind of expect from Billy. And then you've got Fuchsia and Green, which was the first track that Elucid hopped on in the album, and I love this one. I mean, to me, it's kind of like standard Arm & Hammer, like it's a standard soul beat, but it's, you know, it's chopped really well. Elucid comes in with the great energy, and you know, again, like to me, he brings such a different flavor to tracks that I love it when he comes in on a solo Billy project. It just brings a different perspective. So I love that. He has an interesting line where he says, the question isn't about, I'm paraphrasing, but the question isn't about whether or not heaven exists, which is interesting because on his solo album that he just released, one of the like standout lines that he repeated on that one a lot was, "Just got to heaven, but I can't sit down." So I wonder what's going on there. Tell me in the comments what you think about that, and about any lyrics that stuck out to you. Like I want there to be conversation in the comments about the lyrics. I'm sure there's a lot that I've skipped over on the lyrical front, because I mean, it's so lyrically dense. It's like it's going to take so long to really kind of parse through what Billy's talking about on some of these tracks. You know, there's a lot of themes of faith. There's a lot of themes of dealing with weed. There's a lot of themes of loneliness and just trying to make it in the world. And there's a lot of like seedy situations. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of stories being told. There's a lot of commentary, but it's just going to take me a little bit longer to sift through that. And like I said, the way I interact with Billy's stuff is whatever's going to hit me, I just let it hit me, you know, because he's writing for him, and I personally don't think he really cares whether or not we get the reference, you know. So I just enjoy the music. So I like Fuchsia and Green. I think the only one I haven't covered is classical music, which I really like this one. It's so different from all of the other tracks that I kind of think of it as like its own thing. I don't know. It doesn't really, to me, it kind of sticks out in the track list, which isn't not necessarily a bad thing because I really enjoy the track. It's this classical piano kind of loop. It's the other lo-fi hardcore song on the album, like another kind of boom bap beat, but like a really charming lo-fi piano kind of loop. And there's a guest, a Kai solo. He's on a lot of underground rap songs and albums, and he's a good artist. I like him. I just haven't listened to a ton of him, but you know, whenever I hear him, I'm like, oh, Kai's on. And so, you know, he had a good verse. It seemed like he was talking about searching for clarity and making your own path and different things like that. I really liked his verse. Billy does his thing as well. Fielded, I think, I'm mixed on Fielded. She shows up. She's a part of Backwood Studios, which is Billy Wood's record label, and she's bound to show up on pretty much every Billy Woods project. But I've always kind of felt like she's a beautiful voice, but I don't know, it never meshes for me. And like this one, I feel like you had Akai go, you had Billy go, and then like it just felt like a totally different song when she was singing. And it just felt like so separated from the rest of the song. There's something about the execution. It's like I like her. I like her singing, and I like the vibe that she brings. It's just there's something missing. So I feel like it kind of brought the song down just a little bit because she had such an extended portion, and I feel like it didn't really mesh well with the rest of the song. But I just think that Billy is on an absolutely incredible run. I think that this is definitely one of the most emotional albums and one of the most personal albums that he's made. The one track that I didn't mention, I meant to mention this, but I think this is like the most emotional part on the entire album, is the track All Jokes Aside. Another lo-fi hardcore beat. It's very interesting. He's piano, sax, like a boom bap beat. And in the song, before I get to, the emotional part, I love that he shouts out in the first line, he shouts out Rock Marciano and Math Rock, which I absolutely loved. But later in the track, he says, all jokes aside, I enjoyed the ride. I missed my guys, took the church and put it in the sky. And he just keeps repeating that at the end. And I just think that's such an interesting concept. Like what I got from that was, the people that he's missing, the people that are no longer on this earth, that's what he put his faith and his community into. And now that they're gone, he's like, I might as well put my faith in some kind of afterlife, some sort of something. Like, I put this church that was the community around me. They're up in the sky, so I might as well look up to the sky. And it reminds me of a line that he had, I think it was on Haram, but he said, I can't afford not to believe in things unseen, but belief has always been dangerous to me. I thought of that line when I heard this one because I thought it was a really interesting kind of like sister line, a very interesting like parallel. But I like that idea of taking the church and putting it in the sky. I love that visual. But yeah, it just like it felt like a very personal track. And I love the more personal side of Woods. Like Haram was amazing and great and really conceptual, and I loved all the themes and commentary that was going on there. But I also love when Billy just tells a story, and that's exactly what he did here. So I mean, yeah, I thought this album was absolutely incredible, and even the songs that were a little bit sleepy or whatever, to me, they're still better than a lot of what's out there in the underground rap scene. So I really enjoyed this album. Billy killed it again. Like, I just don't like the run that he's on is absolutely insane. You had Hiding Places in 2018. You had I haven't listened to Terror Management, but I hear good things about it. But then you had Haram, and then More Mother, the project with her, and then the 2 solo projects that he's released this year. Like, he's just on a roll, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that Arm & Hammer is getting a little bit bigger of a platform because they deserve it. They're making some of the best stuff out there right now, and yeah, I really enjoyed this album. I would probably give it, I don't know, loose rating, maybe like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. I think that it's hard for me to compare it to Ethiops because I think that Ethiops had a more consistent, like a stronger sonic palette, like, more consistent. And I think the tracks overall played off of each other better, but I felt like this one was more dynamic and versatile. And I think that conceptually, like, there was a lot more talk about like race and history on Ethiops, whereas this one was a lot more personal. So I think they're great in 2 totally different ways. It's a really good album. It's a great release. I hope he just continues to keep making art and just keep going and keep doing him, because he's really killing it right now. So yeah, that's my review of Church by Billy Woods. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. Just whatever you guys are feeling about it, just drop it in the comments. I just want to talk about this album. I feel like what's going on in the rap scene right now, in the underground rap scene, it's like, I just want to contribute to the conversation. I just want people to be talking about it, because it's like right now there are so many albums. Like this album, hopefully it's different, but like, his previous albums and a lot of other different rappers like Navy Blue and Rock Marciano, and even, I mean, Griselda's gotten bigger, so maybe not necessarily them, but like Boldy, it's like there's still like a lot of people still don't know how good this music is, and so it's like we got to talk about it. And so yeah, I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. What are your favorite tracks? What are your favorite lyrical gems or stories that Billy told in it. What's going on under the surface, because I know there's a ton going on with the lyrics. It's just like overwhelming to even like address. So it's like I can't wait to dive into the lyrics more in the comment section. So I can't wait to talk to you guys more about it there. And maybe I'll do a part 2 to this, because I mean there's so much to unpack in this album. But yeah, that's what I've got. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I've got a lot more reviews coming up. There's a lot coming up. I've got the Boldy James recent release. I've got Freddie Gibbs to do, the Alex G release. As you can see, I'm a huge Beach House fan, so I'll probably be doing some kind of album review. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's the first episode of Unknown Reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. It's just like overwhelming to even like address. So it's like I can't wait to dive into the lyrics more in the comment section. So I can't wait to talk to you guys more about it there. And maybe I'll do a part 2 to this, because I mean there's so much to unpack in this album. But yeah, that's what I've got. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I've got a lot more reviews coming up. There's a lot coming up. I've got the Boldy James recent release. I've got Freddie Gibbs to do, the Alex G release. As you can see, I'm a huge Beach House fan, so I'll probably be doing some kind of album review. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's the first episode of Unknown Reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.